My name is Landon Pierce, and the story I'm about to share happened on November 3rd, 2022. It's not easy for me to talk about this, but I feel like it would be wrong to stay silent after everything I've seen and felt. This isn't about trying to get attention or making myself look important. What happened to me wasn't about titles or status or anything you could hold on to in this world. It was a cry, a desperate, burning cry that was placed in my heart when I least expected it, and I know without a doubt that God wants me to share it now. Before everything happened, I had a normal life. I worked as a carpenter in a small town just outside of Nashville, Tennessee. I had a wife named Sarah and 2 young boys, Ethan and Caleb. I never thought much about death, even though I believed in God and went to church sometimes. But in the back of my mind, I lived like there was always going to be more time, more chances, another day to get serious about my faith. I didn't realize how far my heart had drifted from the truth until that night, when everything changed. The day started like any other, but looking back now, I can see there was something different in the air. I remember waking up with this heavy feeling in my chest, like something was pressing down on me, but I brushed it off and went about my morning. I kissed Sarah goodbye, dropped the boys off at school, and went to a job site to finish building a porch for a family friend. Nothing seemed out of the ordinary at first, but by mid-afternoon, I started feeling dizzy, and my vision blurred like a curtain being pulled across my eyes. I tried to shrug it off, blaming the heat, but deep down I knew something was wrong, something far bigger than I could explain. By the time I made it back to my truck, my heart was pounding so hard it felt like it was trying to break out of my chest. I remember gripping the steering wheel, trying to catch my breath, but no matter how hard I tried, it felt like the air was getting thinner. I called Sarah and told her something wasn't right, and she begged me to go straight to the hospital. I wanted to, I really did, but my pride got in the way. I thought maybe if I just rested a little, drank some water, I'd be fine. I didn't want to scare her or the kids over what I thought was probably nothing. I started driving home, but I never made it. About 10 minutes down the road, everything went black. It was like someone had flipped a switch and just shut me off. One moment I was gripping the wheel, and the next I was floating outside of my body, watching everything happen from above. I could see my truck drifting off the road, slamming into a ditch, the dust kicking up into the air like smoke. But what scared me the most wasn't the accident. It was the feeling that I was being pulled, like my soul was being drawn towards something I couldn't fight. First, it was just darkness. Not the kind you see when you close your eyes, but something heavier, like a living darkness that pressed against me from every side. I tried to call out, but no sound came out of my mouth. I could feel fear clawing at me, whispering that it was too late, that there was no going back. It was the loneliest feeling I have ever known. And just when I thought I would be swallowed whole by it, I saw a light in the distance, small at first, like a star fighting to shine through a storm. The light grew bigger the closer I got, and with it came this overwhelming feeling of love, a kind of love I had never experienced before. It wasn't like anything on earth, not even the way a parent loves their child. It was deeper, purer, so strong that it made me feel every mistake I had ever made, every moment I had turned away from God. I wasn't just seeing the light, I was being seen by it, known completely, and yet somehow still loved beyond anything I deserved. The closer I got, the more my fear started to melt away, replaced by a kind of sorrow for the life I had wasted. I don't know how long I was moving toward the light. Time didn't feel the same there. But at some point, I found myself standing in what looked like a beautiful open field, with colors more vivid than anything you could imagine. Everything around me seemed alive, not just the trees and grass, but the very air itself. And in the middle of it all, there was a figure standing, waiting for me. I couldn't see his face clearly, but somehow I knew exactly who it was. It was Jesus. Not the way I had pictured him in paintings, but real, more real than anything I had ever seen with my own eyes. When he spoke, it wasn't with words the way we speak. It was like his voice went straight into my heart, filling every broken place inside me. He called me by name, Landon, and when I heard it, I broke down completely. I dropped to my knees and wept, not because he was angry with me, but because even in all my failures, he still loved me enough to call me home. I kept trying to say I wasn't worthy, that I had wasted too much time, but he just reached out his hand toward me. That single gesture spoke louder than any sermon I had ever heard in my life. As his hand touched me, memories from my life started flooding through my mind like a river. I saw moments I had forgotten, moments where I had chosen myself over others, moments where I had ignored that small voice inside calling me back to him. I saw every time I had pushed God aside, telling myself there would always be another chance. And yet, through all of it, I felt no hatred from him, no anger, only this heartbreaking sadness, not because he was condemning me, but because he had loved me through it all, and I had missed so many chances to love him back. He showed me how close he had been to me, even in my darkest days. I saw him there when I lost my dad to cancer, standing beside me even though I couldn't see him. I saw him sitting with me late at night when Sarah and I almost divorced, holding us together when I was ready to give up. I realized that I had never been alone, not for a single second of my life. I had just been too blind, too busy chasing the wrong things to notice. That realization cut deeper than anything else. To know that the God of the universe had been walking with me all along, and I had barely given him a second thought. Then he spoke again, and what he said will stay with me for the rest of my life. He said, "Landon, I have always loved you, but the time is short. My church is falling asleep, and the world is growing darker. Go back and tell them. Tell them I am coming soon, and they must be ready." As he spoke, I felt the weight of those words settle deep into my spirit. This wasn't a message meant for just me. It was a warning for all of us, a call to wake up before it was too late. The next thing I knew, I was gasping for air, lying half-conscious in the wreckage of my truck. There were flashing lights everywhere, people shouting, the sound of sirens cutting through the night. I later found out that a man driving behind me had seen my truck swerve and crash, and he had called 911 right away. If he hadn't stopped, I wouldn't be here telling you this story. But even in that chaotic moment, I didn't feel fear anymore. I felt peace, a deep, steady peace that nothing in this world could touch. At the hospital, the doctors told me I had suffered a massive cardiac event, something that should have killed me almost instantly. They said it was a miracle I was even alive, let alone conscious and able to speak. But I knew the truth. It wasn't luck, and it wasn't medicine that saved me. It was Jesus, pure and simple. He wasn't finished with me yet, and he had made it crystal clear that my life from that moment on wasn't supposed to be about chasing comfort or living for myself anymore. Recovery wasn't easy. There were days I could barely get out of bed, days when the pain made me wonder if it would have been easier to just let go. But every time I felt weak, I remembered that field, that light, that voice calling my name. I remembered the sorrow in Jesus' voice when he spoke about the church, about how we had fallen asleep while the world was drowning. I couldn't turn my back on that, not after everything he had shown me. I had been given another chance, and I wasn't going to waste it. I started living differently after that. I couldn't go back to the way things were, even if I wanted to. Every morning I woke up, I felt this fire burning inside me. A fire to pray, to read the Word, to actually walk with God instead of just talking about it. I started leading prayer nights at my house, just a few friends and neighbors at first, but then more people started showing up. Some were broken, some were angry at God, some were barely holding on. But all of them were searching for something real, something deeper than the surface-level faith we had gotten so used to. Sarah saw the change in me right away. She told me one night, with tears running down her face, that she had been praying for years that God would wake me up. I hugged her tighter than I ever had before, knowing now just how much grace I had been living under without even realizing it. My boys started asking questions too, wanting to know more about Jesus, about heaven, about the life beyond this one. I didn't have all the answers, but for once, I wasn't afraid to admit that. All I knew was that Jesus was real, his love was real, and the time to get serious about him wasn't someday, it was now. I also started sharing my story wherever I could. At first, it was just in small churches around town, then some youth groups, and eventually even at bigger events. Every time I told it, I could see it hitting people in a place that sermons sometimes missed. Because this isn't just another story. This is a wake-up call. A reminder that none of us are promised another day. We spend so much time chasing things that won't matter the second we stand before him. But his love, his calling, that's the only thing worth living for. Even now, every time I close my eyes, I can still see that field, that light, and the look of sorrow and love in his eyes. Changed everything for me. Not just how I see my own life, but how I see the world around me. I see so many people walking through life numb, distracted, thinking they have forever when they don't. I see a church that's gotten too comfortable, too afraid to speak the truth because they're scared of being rejected. But Jesus wasn't afraid to be rejected. He wasn't afraid to be crucified. And he's calling us, me, you, all of us, to follow him without fear. I'm not perfect. I still have days where I stumble, where I feel weak, where doubts creep into my mind. But I don't live for myself anymore. Every breath I take is a reminder that I was given a second chance, and I don't want to waste it. Jesus said the time is short, and I believe that with every fiber of my being. This world is fading fast, but his kingdom is forever. And the only thing that will matter when we stand before him is whether we knew him, whether we loved him, whether we answered the call. If you're watching this right now, I need you to hear me. It's not too late. No matter how far you feel like you've drifted, no matter how broken you think you are, his arms are still open. But don't wait. Don't let another day slip by thinking you'll have more time. Give him your heart now, while you still can. If this message touched you, I encourage you to like this video, subscribe to the channel for more testimonies of faith, and share your story or prayer request down in the comments. Let's wake up the church together before it's too late.